When I decided to look into this topic, I wanted to get straight out there to investigate the ley lines. However, I thought I would do a little research on the subject first, and oh my, I went down a big hole of conflicting information. But could it be that more than one theory is right? So I pondered the question, what are ley lines? Then asked other people, what do you think about ley lines? Their responses disagreed with each other. I know they're real, I can feel the energy. What a load of nonsense. There is no science to back up ley lines. There was that man that proved them. Underground water, my dowsing rods worked. They're just old tracks. Earth's magnetic field, aren't they? I believe everything as long as I get a free donut. One thing that comes to mind with the topic of ley lines is that many people have claimed that they can locate these invisible lines by using dowsing rods. So let's start by briefly looking at this claim. We will be going out in the field later. So what are dowsing rods? These handheld rods are L-shaped, made of metal, often with sleeves to grip them, not too tight, not too loose. Their authenticity is hotly debated, but many people have claimed that they have worked in finding spirits, water, energy lines, or even located hidden or lost objects.
I found it!
They are often advertised to be used in finding spirits in the paranormal world. How can we ever know whether we are interpreting them correctly? My new rods purchased for this video are made of copper, and in the week or so I've owned them, I've had mixed results that will be shown throughout this video. Some may surprise you. Although copper is not magnetic, it is good at conducting electricity. It has been shown to interact with magnetic fields during the magnet and copper pipe experiment that demonstrates Lenz's law and eddy currents. When a magnet of certain size is dropped down a vertical pipe, it slows down like it has brakes on. If you put a magnet down a vertical plastic pipe, the magnet falls at a different rate. Don't worry, this video is not all sciencey. The Cotswold has limestone in the ground. It also contains magnetite. Magnetite contains iron oxide that is magnetic, and it can become a magnet. If you're standing on the ground holding dowsing rods, science will say that you can't create an electrical circuit this way, even though humans and copper are conductors. One reason is there's no known power source. What if we're the power source? Humans all have different energy levels. Scientists often dismiss dowsing rods. Some say that it's all psychological, that the person expects a movement and then moves the rod subconsciously. Have you ever walked into a room where you feel a negative energy, or a room where it feels good? Have you been alone in the dark, in a corridor where you instantly feel uneasy? Humans pick up on things, but most importantly, not all in the same way. Scientists will always find it difficult to prove that there is or isn't any kind of mystical energy going on, or that the paranormal is interacting. There will always be bias within research, and there are far too many variables involved from geology, chemistry, physics and psychology, and humans still do not know everything there is to know. We are a mere speck in the big, wide unknown. Is the answer 42? A few years ago, upon visiting the Rollright Stones with 3 other people, we came across homemade dowsing rods that were left on the ground within the trees. The handles were made out of old biro pen plastic, and the rods out of metal coat hangers. We each took it in turns to slowly walk into the centre of the stone circle with the rods. To our surprise, 3 out of 4 of us had the same result, with the rods crossing in the centre of the circle. But the remaining person did not have anything happen at all. Have you ever charged your phone or camera to 100% and then it suddenly drains down to 0? I've had this a number of times, and on one such occasion I was at the Rollright Stones where I had a brand new camera. It was fully charged, I was excited to use it, and then it suddenly overheated. The battery drained and it switched itself off within a minute of use. Right next to the stone circle. Other occasions were in the haunted village of Pluckley. I was on the road outside the graveyard at the top of the hill when my MP3 player, watch and phone all stopped working. This happened on multiple visits to this village. This could all be just coincidence or faulty equipment, but sometimes they give you a nudge to think about the possibility of the unknown.
This is so annoying.
This video, I've never had so many weird things go on. Like, all my files are missing. Can't save. The battery just drained completely whilst I was talking about ley lines and spirits. And dowsing rods. And I better not have lost everything. Alfred Watkins was born in Hereford, England in 1855 and lived until the ripe age of 80 years old. He was a keen photographer and is best known for his theories about the existence of Neolithic ley lines, of which he dedicated many years of his life researching. He wrote books on the subject, such as The Old Straight Track and The Ley Hunter's Manual in the 1920s. We will soon go out onto the Cotswold ley line. Let's begin the research. I've read all of that for you guys. Watkins doesn't think it's all mystical and magic. Watkins wanted people to strip back the landscape and things that they may see to allow them to get an idea of what it was like to live a long time ago. So much has changed, such as trees, roads, buildings, additions like border hedges, farmland, and weather events such as floods and droughts, that ley lines cannot always be found so easily, just by looking alone. Even churches may have been built on areas previously used for other purposes, and Roman roads may have also been built on top of the lines themselves. So keep an open mind and make your own mind up. But yes, it was a really good book. I recommend The Ley Hunter's Manual. Many people have differing theories to Watkins in what ley lines are, so who's right? Watkins had a simple perspective that ley lines were purely ancient routes that would have been made by movement of people, whether for trading, ceremonial paths, or general use. His book and theories do not mention magical powers, energy, or any spiritual ideas attached to these lines. He linked up markers, ancient mounds, stones, water points, such as wells, fords, circular moats, that when plotted on a map created perfectly straight lines. He suggests reasoning to why these paths would have been straight. For example, an easy-to-navigate route. Our adventure to some of the points on the Cotswold ley line seemed to give merit to more than one theory, so let's go and check it out. Alfred Watkins listed a number of ley lines in his book, so we decided to follow the Cotswold ley line route. So I've just plotted the Cotswold ley line onto the map, and starting at Radway Church, and then we're going down, sun rising, top of sun rising. Keep going. Traitors Ford and Great Roll Right, all the way to Chipping Norton Church. There is the church there. So we're facing the church currently. Look at that little cat, I get so distracted. Kitty kitty. And then if we go round this way, which is a bush, that's actually where the ley line runs through this bush. So this is St Peter's Church in Radway. So I was just practicing holding the dowsing rods. I know this is not how you're meant to use them, but I just thought I'd just practice holding them, get a feel from them. The so-called ley line. I had the sun blind up because it was really hot when the sun was shining on that window. I'm doing it now. When I put it on. Oh, there we go.
It's pointed at me.
No, it's pointing at the church, which is at the point. My hands are really shaky. They're so temperamental, they've got the mind of their own at the moment. Wobbling around all over the place. I think that's just me.
It's just you.
And then it's pointing to the other way of the ley line, exactly to the point. Oh! That's weird. Oh, that really made me jump. Now, that was nothing paranormal about the blind coming up. The blind is useless. The sucker really just doesn't stick at the bottom. So that was just something that made me jump. Nothing paranormal to see here. Or is it? Okay. So this is the view from pretty much towards the ley line. From Radway Church. We're just on a bit. So this is King John's Lane, and up there is probably the nearest you can kind of get to the ley line around here at the end of this lane. And there's a little footpath that at least starts in the direction of the line. So right on top of that hill, that's the top of Sunrising Hill, which is the next stop on the Cotswold ley line. And as normal, every time I go to film, it turns into a bush. Okay, so we're currently going up Sunrising, and there's been a little bit of an accident or something before we got here. Pardon? Oh, it's a breakdown. So Sunrising is a hill that is quite popular with cyclists. Have you done it? You've done it, have you? You've climbed it. I never got to do this one. So it's a steep hill. We're not actually on the ley line at the moment, but the top of this hill crosses it. And here's one of those cyclists just round the corner. So there's a road up here just to the right, and that's actually where the ley line crosses. It just got weird. So some weird things are happening. Every time we're on the line of the ley line that Alfred Watkins had in his book, the dowsing rods seem to fall in the exact pattern of the ley line every time. It's really, really weird. And I use these a lot at home, and they weren't doing that. Bizarre. So that is pretty much on the ley line there. Okay, so we're just coming into Warwickshire. So it looks kind of like a mound up there. We're coming down a lane towards Traitors Ford. We're not actually on the ley line because we can't drive that. But in the distance, that does look like some kind of mound. So Alfred mentions in his book that fords that are deep cut are often on ley lines, and that they could be seen from a distance because of the water. So I suppose if you were up above and you can see the glistening of the water. All the wildlife's coming in. You've got to imagine everything is different. The trees will be different, the land will be different. The size of that pothole there is Traitors Ford. Line is just running that way, just over there, onto me and behind me as well. It's got quite a pleasant feeling actually around here. Birds singing, and the route travels through here according to Watkins. No dowsing rods action, nothing's happening. But then I'm not travelling right on the line. So this is still on Traitors Ford Lane, and this is bang on the line. But it wouldn't have looked like this back then, would it? Nothing like it. And we do need to clean our windscreen. So Mr. Watkins, so what he was basically saying is that you navigate between things see, so there'll be markers to your next point. So therefore you could travel over hills, because you'd get to the marker of just before the hill, and then you'd be able to see the next marker, whether it would be like a pond or a stone or a post, and then you get to that one, and then you get to the next one. So you never had to see it the whole route, you just had to see the next one, and that's how you can travel in a straight line as the crow flies. And bear in mind they didn't have cars, did they? So you would want to go the shortest route. What was that? Whoa! Am I getting this wrong, Mr. Watkins? Some weird things happening in here today. Weird things. So as I was saying, they wouldn't have had cars, so they would have had to go on foot or beast. So you'd need to be the shortest route, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because you'd be knackered otherwise. Great Rail Right in Chipping Norton. So the thing is, you wouldn't have all these hedges like this. The ley line is slightly off of this route of the car, and Watkins didn't mention in Great Roll Right what was on the ley line. The Roll Right's stones don't appear to be exactly on this line, but coming up here there is something that said Church End, I think, something like that. And Great Roll Right, and Watkins didn't say what the ley line was on, but from my plotting of the route, around here somewhere, it kind of crosses to Church End. So there's a church down there, but the churches wouldn't have been around then. So we're still Great Roll Right, and just in front, that's where the ley line crosses, according to my badly plotted map that I quickly did within a few seconds. So we're just coming up to the church at Chipping Norton, and this will be the end of, or the beginning of, the Cotswold ley line. And it's a sketchy little road that we don't want to meet another car. At the church, but can't get to the church. Get to the church. The church behind this tree. So here we are at Chipping Norton, and today we've gone all the way from Radway right the way through Sunrising, Traitors Ford, Great Roll Rights, and here at Chipping Norton. So we're currently coming out of Chipping Norton, and there is a tube below. Oh, there's a footpath there. There's the footpath. Right, oh, that's creepy. Just just behind this wall is that tomb line. There is a mound. Yeah, there's a mound, I saw it. Just blinded myself with the light. Alfred Watkins was not the first person to look at ley lines, and he certainly won't be the last. An even earlier reference was made by John Wood, who was the author of the book 1747 Survey of Stonehenge, Quiragore. He was also the architect of the building in Bath called the Circus, which is possibly built upon a ley line. Were our ancient ancestors' abilities greater than they get credit for? After all, we would not be here today had they not been survivors and puzzle solvers. In researching this topic, many posts were seen on the internet and social media, indicating that some people do not believe that ancient humans had the skills to make intelligent decisions. One thing to think about is, if you had to travel a long distance, what is easier? A winding route that goes left then right, then straight, then left, curves around, and so on. Or one that simply goes as the crow flies, straight. Straight is also the shortest route. Short may not be, depending on the terrain, mean less calories are needed, but it would be easier to remember, easier to point the way to. An example of route creation in today's society. Picture this, you are out shopping to multiple shops.
Calling announcement, Joe to till 4, please, thank you.
You approach a corner where the pavement follows around. But instead of walking there, you nip through on the grass verge, cutting the corner as people have trodden a worn track. Why do people do this? Is it simply that we're programmed to follow the most efficient route? Or is it follow the leader mentality? Humans seem to do this without much thought. Since the creation of Earth, there have been multiple cycles of change to the landscape. Mass weather events, earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, and even disagreements have contributed to dramatic landscape changes. New houses and buildings have been built on the ground of old ones, time and time again. Since a lot of Earth's true history is buried or covered by deep oceans, some lost evidence of ancient times will remain a mystery forever, and puzzle pieces of history will be uncovered from time to time for us to ponder over. One thing I want to get across in this video is that there is a possibility that multiple people are right about ley lines. It could be that they were ancient tracks, and it could also be that there is an energy in the ground that you can pick up on. What do you think? Pop me a comment down below. Building a small channel is really difficult, so if you'd liked anything you've seen in this video, please subscribe and I'll see you next time. Burial mound. No, that's just a pile of manure. I have just seen a man wearing blue suede shoes. It wasn't Elvis.